Bro, now it is Friday, the day before
The ring lights flickered, the music hit, but for a moment, the crowd wasn't sure if they were hearing things right. Could it really be him? After months of silence, after countless rumors, Matt Riddle was back. But this wasn't the same Riddle who once stood barefoot, smiling, and carefree in WWE. No, this man walked with fire in his eyes, and as the crowd roared, he didn't flash his usual grin. He looked straight into the camera and nodded, like a man returning to settle unfinished business. It wasn't just a comeback, it was a warning. Months earlier, Matt Riddle had disappeared from WWE programming. Officially, there were no dramatic announcements, no exit statements, but fans knew something wasn't right. Whispers circled the internet, injuries, backstage tension, personal struggles. Riddle, once a rising star with a loyal fan base, had suddenly vanished from the spotlight. And in WWE, out of sight can often mean out of mind. But Riddle had other plans. In a recent interview, his first real sit-down since the hiatus, Riddle spoke with raw intensity. "Sometimes," he said, "you have to lose everything to remember what you're fighting for." He admitted that the time away wasn't easy. It was painful, lonely, eye-opening, but it gave him what he never had before: clarity. "I don't just want to be remembered," he said. "I want to remind them. Remind the WWE Universe that I am elite, that I came here to win." The tone was different. Gone was the laid-back surfer bro persona. In its place was a man with something to prove and something to reclaim. But Riddle's return wasn't just about chasing gold. It was about rewriting his story. And as the rumors swirled backstage, one name kept emerging again and again: Randy Orton. The Viper and the original Bro had once formed an unlikely but wildly popular tag team, RK Bro. Their chemistry was undeniable, their matches unforgettable. And when Orton went down with an injury, fans hoped for a reunion that never came. So naturally, when Riddle returned, speculation exploded. Was this leading to an RK Bro reunion? Could Orton be close to coming back too? When asked, Riddle didn't confirm or deny. Instead, he offered a cryptic smile. "If that opportunity ever comes again, I'll be ready," he said. "We made magic once, and sometimes lightning can strike twice." But not everyone backstage was cheering Riddle's return. His reappearance stirred tension. New stars had risen in his absence, champions had been crowned, spots were taken, and the locker room wasn't the same place Riddle had left behind. The environment was more cutthroat, the stakes higher. And Riddle? He was now the wild card. Outside the WWE bubble, something else had been brewing. Something big. While the mainstream audience saw silence, Riddle had been making noise elsewhere. Loud, undeniable noise. He shocked the wrestling world by capturing the MLW World Heavyweight Championship, an accomplishment that signaled he wasn't done, not by a long shot. Then came another surprise. In the heart of Japan, inside the sacred halls of New Japan Pro Wrestling, NJPW, Riddle made history again, winning the NJPW World Television Championship. In the eyes of purists and critics alike, it was a statement. Matt Riddle wasn't just a WWE guy anymore. He was a global force. His performances were fierce, technical, and unlike anything fans had seen from him before. It wasn't just about the wins, it was about how he won. Riddle brought a new level of brutality and purpose. He was reinventing himself in front of a global audience. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. Behind the scenes, certain higher-ups in WWE weren't entirely thrilled about Riddle's outside success. Some viewed it as rebellion. Others feared it signaled he might walk away permanently. There were whispers about a potential bidding war between companies. And suddenly, Riddle wasn't just a returning superstar. He was a threat to the system. And he knew it. In interviews, Riddle remained diplomatic, but there was a smirk, a subtle defiance in his words. "I've been sharpening my tools everywhere I can," he said. "I'm not here to play by old rules anymore. I'm here to build my empire." But the real question remained. What was Riddle planning next inside WWE? He had returned. Yes, he had the crowd behind him. But with no titles in sight and no clear alliances, he was a lone wolf. And as history shows, lone wolves either rise or get hunted. As WWE programming built week by week, subtle teases began. A backstage stare from a top heel, a camera lingering too long on Riddle during someone else's promo, a theme song cut short. Fans felt it. Something was coming. But what? Was Riddle gunning for a major championship? Would he call out old enemies or forge shocking alliances? Would he reunite with Orton or turn against him? One thing was certain, Riddle was no longer just a superstar. He was a story waiting to explode. And with all eyes on him, the world watched, waiting for his next move. The return had been electrifying. The audience welcomed Matt Riddle with open arms. But beneath the cheers, behind the camera lights, something darker brewed. Wrestling fans love a comeback, but the business rarely makes room for sentiment. And the locker room? It didn't forget who had vanished and who stayed behind to grind. Riddle was back, but he was not being celebrated by everyone. There was a silent resentment echoing in hushed conversations backstage. Jealous eyes followed him. Some believed he hadn't earned his second chance. Others feared he might leapfrog over months of hard work and politics. A few even started whispering that his return would be the beginning of something dangerous for them. WWE thrives on competition, but this was shaping into a war. Riddle knew it. He wasn't walking into the same WWE. The structure had shifted. There were new names on top, men and women who had clawed their way up in his absence. One of them, a rising star named Damon Price, had become a backstage leader of sorts. Charismatic, explosive in the ring, and deeply respected. Damon didn't take kindly to Riddle's reemergence. And one night, in a moment that sent shockwaves through the WWE universe, Damon confronted Riddle in front of a live audience. "I respect what you used to be, bro," Damon said, pacing around him. "But you left, and now you come back, walking like a king. Truth is, you're not the future. You're just a memory we haven't buried yet." The tension was suffocating. But Riddle didn't flinch. He stared back, silent, focused. A small smile played on his lips. Then, as if scripted by fate, he simply said, "Let's find out who the future really belongs to." That line ignited a spark. What began as a war of words became a full-blown rivalry. Each week, subtle attacks blurred into brutal backstage ambushes. Promos laced with venom, chairs to the back, surprise roll-ups. WWE's creative machine fed off their animosity. But behind the screen, it was more than a storyline. It was personal. And just as the audience believed it couldn't get more intense, Randy Orton returned. His music hit on a regular Raw night, and the arena exploded. The Viper walked out slow, calculated, his expression unreadable. Fans waited. Would this be a reunion or a confrontation? Riddle walked out too, visibly unsure. The crowd chanted, RK bro, but the tension between them was thick. They didn't embrace. They didn't fist bump. They simply locked eyes. In a silent moment that felt like eternity, Orton extended his hand. And Riddle took it. The internet went wild. Social media trended worldwide. RK Bro was back, or so it seemed. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Together, they took down tag teams with familiar chemistry. Promos felt natural again. Orton grinned more. Riddle looked alive. WWE milked it. Merchandise flew off the shelves. Fans believed in the magic again. But magic can be an illusion. What fans didn't see, what the cameras didn't catch, was the late-night meetings, the closed-door conversations, Orton talking with Damon Price, their body language guarded, faces unreadable. Riddle began noticing the cracks, missed tags during matches, silence during interviews, Orton disappearing before main events. It was subtle, but chilling. And then it happened. At a pay-per-view event billed as Redemption, Riddle and Orton were set to challenge for the tag team championships. The storyline was red hot. Fans were rabid with anticipation. Midway through the match, Riddle reached for a hot tag. Orton dropped from the apron. The crowd gasped. The opponents, vicious and stunned, took advantage, and Riddle was crushed under a brutal finisher. 1, 2, 3. RK Bro was dead, but the betrayal had just begun. As the crowd booed in disbelief, Orton stepped into the ring and stood over Riddle's broken body. The Viper's face was ice cold. He leaned down and whispered something that no mic picked up. But lip readers online caught the phrase, "You should have stayed gone." The arena was in chaos. Fans screamed in fury, some cried, others stood frozen in disbelief. Orton walked out, no expression, no regret. The following night, the truth unraveled. Orton, in a pre-recorded promo, confirmed the betrayal. This business isn't about friendships, it's about survival, and Matt Riddle forgot that. I didn't come back to relive the past, I came back to end it. And as for Damon Price, he walked into frame beside Orton, grinning. The unthinkable had happened. Riddle's greatest ally had joined forces with his greatest enemy. The explanation was clear but cruel. Orton had lost faith in Riddle during his absence. Damon offered Orton power, relevance, and a path to the top. Riddle only offered nostalgia. And in WWE, nostalgia doesn't win championships. Riddle, recovering from his physical and emotional wounds, remained silent. But silence isn't surrender. Behind the scenes, he trained harder, sharpened his strategy, cut ties with distractions. His social media went dark. But a simple image was posted weeks later, a photo of his taped fists and one line. Revenge isn't loud, it's personal. And now, the WWE Universe was split. Would Riddle retaliate? Could he survive a war against two of the company's most dominant figures? He had no allies, no tag team partner, just rage, pain, and something even more dangerous, purpose. As the storyline evolved into chaos, the audience was left with one burning question. When Matt Riddle returns this time, will it be as the hero they loved or the monster they created? It had been weeks since Matt Riddle was betrayed, humiliated by the one man he once trusted like a brother. Archibro was dead, and now Randy Orton and Damon Price ruled the WWE with an iron grip. They were cunning, brutal, and untouchable. Anyone who crossed their path was quickly made an example of. Tag teams dissolved, single stars backed away. No one wanted to end up like Riddle. But Riddle wasn't gone. He was waiting. In the shadows of WWE, in empty gyms and late-night training centers, Matt Riddle was reborn. The carefree bro was gone. What remained was a man with fire in his eyes, tape around his fists, and vengeance coursing through his veins. He didn't want to be cheered anymore. He didn't want merch sold in his name. He wanted justice, and he knew the only way to get it was to become everything they feared. His return was sudden, no promo, no music, no warning. On a night when Orton and Damon were gloating in the ring after dismantling another team, the lights cut out. The crowd roared, but what followed wasn't a gimmick. It was war. Riddle slid into the ring like a ghost, a steel chair in hand, no words, no hesitation. And he unleashed hell. The crowd erupted in screams as Riddle struck over and over. Damon was the first to fall, then Orton. Security rushed in, but Riddle fought through them like a man possessed. His face was drenched in sweat, not showmanship. His fists bruised, not performance. When it was over, Riddle stood on the barricade, screaming into the void. "This isn't over!" The WWE Universe had never seen him like this. They were stunned. Some cheered, some were unsettled, but everyone wanted to know what would happen next. Backstage, chaos followed. Management scrambled. Orton was reportedly furious. Damon was sidelined with an injury, and the narrative shifted. This wasn't just a rivalry anymore. It was a vendetta. In the weeks that followed, Riddle dismantled every obstacle thrown at him. Enhancement talent, mid-card champions, even former world title holders all fell to a new, more dangerous version of the original bro. He wasn't just wrestling. He was hunting. But then something changed. In a backstage segment that aired weeks before the biggest pay-per-view of the year, Riddle was seen alone, staring into a locker room mirror. He looked exhausted, haunted. There were no promos, just silence. And in that silence, we saw the toll revenge was taking on him. His friends were gone. His smile had vanished. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of everything he'd become. Was he winning, or was he just losing himself? Reckoning, it all came to a head. Riddle versus Orton. No disqualifications, no allies, just two men bound by history and broken by betrayal. The match was a masterclass in storytelling and violence. They tore the ring apart. Tables shattered, kendo sticks snapped. At one point, Orton hit a thunderous RKO onto steel steps, but Riddle kicked out. The crowd couldn't believe it. The story wasn't done. Riddle clawed back, fueled by rage, memories, and something deeper, a need to prove he was more than a footnote in Orton's legacy. In the closing moments, Riddle locked Orton in a devastating chokehold. The Viper gasped, reaching for the ropes, but there were no breaks in this match. Orton tapped. The arena erupted. Riddle had done it, but he didn't celebrate. He sat in the center of the ring, breathing heavy, staring into nothing. The crowd chanted his name, but he barely reacted. Victory didn't feel sweet. It felt empty. Backstage, he gave one final interview. "I got what I wanted," he said, "but I don't know if I like the man who wanted it." There was no smile, no catchphrase, just a wounded soul looking for peace in a war-torn world. And then, in a twist no one expected, the interviewer asked one last question. "What's next for Matt Riddle?" He paused, smirked, and said, "What if I told you I was never after Randy? What if there's someone bigger pulling the strings?" The feed cut, and the audience went silent. Was Orton merely a pawn? Was Damon's betrayal part of something deeper? Was Riddle's entire journey manipulated from the start? Fans flooded social media. Theories exploded. Was it a returning legend? A secret faction? A corporate puppet master? Riddle had won the battle. But now a new war was about to begin. So now the question is, if Riddle wasn't chasing Randy all along, then who was he really hunting?